easily access it. And we always say use that little chat bubble at the bottom just in case you need something. I know that Ramon asked earlier, all softwares aren't perfect. Like there's always going to be a bug somewhere. Something that we haven't utilized as much in Goodshuffle is the task management. I know that both of y'all just talked about it. And mentioned that there's so many tasks for all the things. I don't do tents, and y'all talking about tents and in the chat, I'm so glad I don't. And this is a very good reminder of why I'm never going to do tents. I'll do the other things, but I'm not going to ever do a tent. Maybe pop-up tents, and that's the furthest I'll get on that. But we don't use the tasks as much. We use Asana for it because we do 500 plus events a year. In every order, like you have to schedule your crews and you have to make sure you have the right trucks and you have to, like, everything has, like, most orders have generally some of the same tasks that are on every single one. And it's currently, there's not a template for it. There's not a template that says every order has to have somebody assigned to it. And while that's like a duh question, like obviously somebody has to do that, it's also good to have it as a task list. And so we use Asana as our task management system because it is templated. And maybe that's changed and I just haven't seen it. But until it's like updated on Goodshuffle, we do utilize Asana to help us just understand like specific tasks that are always on every order. And then you can add specific tasks for that one order if it's different than your standard one. And then we do use our personal email or, our personal Gmail, for the business, not like a personal email, but we do use that outside of Goodshuffle mainly because we have wedding planners that'll email us from there. And I don't want to necessarily put them right into the Goodshuffle system until, they get a quote. A lot of, there's pretty back and forth communication. So those are a few things that we don't use Goodshuffle for necessarily, but maybe we'll change my mind. Maybe I will.
We will. We will.
I know. You've already
One,
taken me out of other softwares and used your, integration. So
that's what it is. It's over time. It's like we just want to continue to keep that stuff in one place.
Well, and like as we all have different rental companies. Like I don't do tents, but Kristine and Jen do. And so we all have different things. And so what works for me and my rental company doesn't necessarily translate to another rental company, but we can learn from each other and learn like, oh, well, you do it this way. Maybe that works better than what I work for. And I think we all probably use Goodshuffle a little bit differently. And so it's nice. I love coming to these summits because I get to learn a little something new every single time. That helps me shift, how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, awesome. A question came in from Ramon, who you just mentioned, Cam, excuse me. And I wanted to turn it over to Kristine because Kristine, I love the way that you have your tents built out. Ramon asked, do you add all of the individual parts and pieces of a particular tent into Goodshuffle, and why are you doing that? I do just want to mention quickly before you start jumping in, Kristine, Ramon, I sent a help article in that chat over how when you're building an invoice, you can hide muted items while you're putting an order together, even in your own view. So I want to let Kristine talk a little bit about how they've added at Preferred Events each individual tent part, but also wanted to let you know that just because the client can't see it, you don't have to see it either. You can hide those muted items as you're building your quotes. But Kristine, do you have each and every piece of your tents put together?
Every single piece in our warehouse is in the system. We do it this way for a couple of reasons, but the main reason is just so we don't overbook. You can use the same tent pole to build, let's say, 20 different types of tents or sizes of tents, but we only have that one pole, right? So you can only use it for one job. So if you put all the different pieces in, you kind of have a better idea of how many tents you can send out total that weekend. Our quotes or our pull sheets for our boys, they are super long. You're right about that. We do have all of the photos on there as well, just so that newcomers know exactly the pieces that they're looking for. Like you said, we don't mind printing the extra pieces. We think it's just better because it's more efficient. We found that since we switched to Goodshuffle and we have this full layout, the boys forget tent parts way less. It's more like they're forgetting like the linens added on to the accessory for the chair or something, you know, something extra that they're not normally on there. The tent parts, they've gotten really good at grabbing all the pieces before they go. And I think a big part of that is because we have everything individually on there, and it works for our team. We don't use the mobile version so much of Goodshuffle. We do print out hard copies and we give those to our drivers and our team, and then they just bring those on the road with them. And then they just have pens and stuff, check them off physically. When everything comes back into the warehouse, our warehouse manager does do the fulfillment and he checks everything back in. But that's just on, that's the warehouse manager's duties. That's not necessarily on our drivers. They just have the hard copies of the sheets. When we do our quotes and we make things like that, something that I personally like to do is I make, you know, one specific section be the tenting section, and then I can just minimize that so I don't have to scroll through my whole quote to add things to it or to change it around if I need to add notes or the delivery fees or add other things. I just kind of close the tab up, think about it later, then just double check it on client view before I send it, make sure it all looks good to go. I love how customizable Goodshuffle is. We also use the package feature for our dance floors, for our cocktail tables, all kinds of things that like utilize the same pieces. So we'll make a white dance floor or a black and white dance floor, but it's still made with the same white pieces. So we can only make X amount of floors. So by having all of those floor pieces in there instead of, you know, individually making dance floors, we kind of have a better idea of how our weekends are looking and how stocked we are. With the cocktail tables, we have different size poles. So we have tall cocktail tables or short cocktail tables. They all use the same feet and the same top. So you can really only make so many, but we have so many poles, it's different numbers. So again, just putting everything in there ends up being better for you in the inventory because you just have a more solid idea of what you own. So that just works for our team for the tenting.
No, that's awesome. It's packages and putting in all the pieces, just my experience working with so many different businesses, it's incredibly helpful to put all those parts and pieces in. Because like you mentioned, one piece could be the limiting factor.
Right.
You can only book that particular item 3 or 4 times. You can't send it out on all the packages that use it. One thing I wanted to turn it over to Jen here as well. Looks like we have one of our users, Grover. What's going on? Pleasure seeing you a few weeks ago in Vegas. Wanted to ask his question live. Jen, he's asking, what is your process like the day before delivery? Like, how are you communicating with clients before delivery? What do you guys do over at Marianne's, maybe the day or the week prior to items getting delivered?
Okay, so once an order is signed and paid and it's just ready to go, our payment schedule is either 4 weeks or 2 weeks out. So pretty much the order is done, finished, unless it's a last minute urgent order. So there's not a lot of communication leading up to like the few days before because we've already finalized everything in the weeks prior. If they have a tent, they are getting a call from dispatch the week prior to their event to make them aware of their delivery date, because for residential deliveries, we ask them to be flexible. If you're, you know, downtown in the street or in a park and you don't have that flexibility, then we just do the delivery based how the salesperson wrote it. We track all of our capacities in the Google Calendar, and we have some set standard limitations that the sales team can book up to this max amount of things. And then beyond that, it has to have manager sign off. And so, unless there's, you know, capacity issues, the salespeople are just booking. And then, they're going to get a phone call to let them know about the tent. And then the day of, they're going to get a call from their driver, letting them know when they're on the way. And they can do anywhere from a 30-minute to a 1-hour call ahead of time. The majority of our deliveries are what we call anytime slots. So that means it's up to us to route based on zip code and the day order of the day. We do have services for priority arrivals and late nights, and those they will get a courtesy call to let them know that they're on time or they've arrived and they're on site. But those are priority exact times, so they'll get contacts from their drivers, you know, that morning. Some of our larger events, we will things that have multi-day load-ins or really heavy on logistics, not the small stuff, the really big load-ins. We will do every week we do a production meeting where it's the official handoff from the sales team to the warehouse and production teams, people that are delivering and executing. We'll cover any high level jobs, kind of the official hand off the baton. And we're only doing this for the large jobs, the small, mom pop shop, garment racks for a garage sale. Like that doesn't need any kind of communication because we preach all the time, notes, 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 notes. It happened, but how can you prove it? Because you documented it in Goodshuffle and you dated and initialed it. So we drill that in everybody's head from fulfillment to sales. So everybody sees everything. Again, all the communication is in there. And then for large events, there may be a week of or a week prior meeting with the salesperson and then the lead installer to, again, pass that baton. That's only going to be for our large jobs. The small stuff, they're just going to get a call when they're on the way. And their delivery just arrives kind of like FedEx or Amazon, it's just during this sometime today, you'll get your delivery. And then I think that covers, did I answer it?
Yeah, no, nailed it. I just wanted to learn a little bit more to kind of, and also help answer Grover's like what it is that you guys are doing on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis. Cam, since you are utilizing dispatch and you've been sending trucks out, you've got those 15 deliveries for one particular event. How are you handling your communications with clients specifically?
Yeah, so ours is a little bit different. Yeah, we have so an all day, we have a window is our standard. So we have a 3 to 4 hour window for standard delivery. That's kind of priced as, we do percentage pricing on that based on where it's going. So the percentage raises depending on, if it's an hour and a half away, it's going to take a little bit longer. And then we do a 2 day before email. We do it like a 2 week before when we're finalizing your counts, your money, because we do 14 days before is your balance is due. If you add on after that, your balance is due immediately. But we're confirming kind of all those things. Usually, if we're working with a planner or DMC, they've got their times already, so we're entering those in. And then 2 days before, they get an automatic email from us that fulfills, like, here's the day and time window that you have for delivery. Here's what you have for strike. Here's your day of contact for your delivery and their cell phone number. Here's your strike contact and their cell phone number, confirming that this is the phone number that we have for your day of contact so that we know who to call. And if you have any questions or comments or concerns, let us know. Otherwise, see you in 2 days. And then on the actual event day, we do a call and a voicemail. And then if we leave a voicemail, we'll follow up with a quick text as well. And those are kind of canned text messages that we send to our delivery drivers. They have them saved on their phones now to where it just says like something like, hey, this is so-and-so. We're on our way to your delivery and we'll be there in, X amount of minutes or at this time estimated. We do have preferred timing. If someone wants us there at a specific time, then we prioritize that before we move around our windowed times. And it's great with dispatch because you can choose which truck you've got. So if you've got, 3 or 4 trucks and one is going to, in Dallas-Fort Worth, and I'm in Dallas, if one's going to Fort Worth, I have a delivery in Fort Worth, I have a delivery in Waxahachie, and I have a delivery in McKinney, which each of those places are an hour, in a triangle around me. And then I have a second delivery that's in North Fort Worth or whatever, then I'm going to put that on truck A, and they're going to go to here first, and then it'll say, all right, if this is on the same delivery, how long will it take to get from point A to point B in that same area? And then I can say truck B is going to go to Waxahachie, and truck C is going to go to McKinney or whatever. And so dispatch is really great because you can visually see it, and it also like plans it out timing wise and understanding like how long you're going to be on site. Because one delivery that's like Jen mentioned, you're dropping off to garment racks to a house, that's 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes maybe, depending on how difficult the house is to get into. Versus like a larger order might take 3 or 4 or 5 hours to deliver that. And so it's really great to see what timing does that look like? How do I schedule my crews appropriately based on that timing? And make sure that everything, all your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed when you're going into a busy weekend.
That's awesome. Yeah, I kind of like seeing the slight differences between you guys in just terms of cadence and outreach to particular clients.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to mention here is coming in the chat, and again, being mindful of time, we have about like 2-3 minutes left here. Grover popped in and said he does offer a 4-hour window delivery, but it's an upcharge. Exact time delivery is another upcharge on top of that. Kristine, over at Preferred, are you guys like charging more for particular delivery windows, or how does delivery work for you guys? As our last question of the afternoon.
So I was starting to type it in there a little bit. It's really tough with the tenting to tell people, exactly when we're going to get there. Just because, let's say we're installing 2 tents that day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. But the one in the morning, we get on site and there's an issue at the site, some unforeseen issue at the site. So now we're delayed. We always give everybody a 3 to 4 hour window. I think that's what Cam said before too, just because it's easier to give a window that they'll arrive. Can't guarantee they'll be done in the window, but they'll arrive in the window and then they'll get everything done. If you need something delivered at a specific time, then we would charge a specific fee for that, because we would have to route our other jobs around your specific job, because we would be prioritizing that time frame. We would also charge more if somebody wanted it on a specific day for the same reason. Typically with tents, we tell everybody that we are going to install it about 1 to 5 days before the event, just depending on how our schedule looks. So we'll give a call on usually it's Monday afternoon, we'll call all of our clients for the upcoming weekend and just let them know the day and the window that will be coming. Now, sometimes they don't really like my answer. They don't like the time I'm coming or the day I'm coming. But unfortunately, with tenting, it is such an involved business, and sometimes we need to be on site for one job for 3 days. So if we're spending 3 days on just this one event, that means we only have 2 other weekdays to get the rest of the weekend done. So it really does fluctuate based on the size of the jobs. That's why I always warn all the clients beforehand 1 to 5 days, just so that they have an idea. It may come on Tuesday for your Saturday event, just so you know. People are pretty much okay with it for the most part. We just remind them to tell their landscapers. That seems to be the biggest question. But other than that,
Yep.
we don't charge any more for the window, because we think that the window is the best option for us. We charge more if you make us work outside of our comfort zone.
It makes total sense. Well, again, thank you, Jen, Cam, and Kristine. I really do appreciate you guys spending some time during your afternoon while you're attending the User Summit to also speak. We have another session taking place right after this. I'm going to be turning it over to another one of my coworkers, Samantha. But everyone at HQ, everyone, if you're at home, big round of applause for Jennifer, Cam, and Kristine for coming on in. Thank you, guys. Really quick, before you leave this Zoom room, because we're going to be bouncing to another Zoom room in just a second, I'm going to turn things over to HQ. Colin had a quick announcement he wants to make before I close out of this webinar and we start the next one.
Sweet. Thank you so much, Jake, and thank you to all of our great speakers. So a quick bit of background on me. One of my first jobs right out of university was doing touring kids theater in Italy. So hitting the road, driving around, meeting new people, being in new places, that is so deeply ingrained in my blood. And I did that for 3 years right out of university. And it was an amazing experience. And when I was at ARA this past few months ago, we did some warehouse tours and visiting people, making connections, seeing how people actually live and breathe in this industry was so tremendously impactful and actionable for me in my role that I wanted to bring this all to you across this beautiful country. So Goodshuffle is hitting the road. And we've got a little trailer for you of what we got planned.